So as I mentioned, I was going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what I did to protect the Mirliton from the low temperatures. Got down to about, I think, 29, 30 at my house here in Mobile. And as you can see, what I did years ago is I built this structure. And it's just made out of 4x4s. It's about 24 foot long by 6 to 7 foot tall, and I just have these sunk in the ground. And the intention was that the vines down here would grow out and grow on top and on the supporting structure, some of this reinforcement wire. But a lot of times, because I guess my yard is deprived of a lot of sunlight, they tend to just grow throughout the trees and bushes around. So first thing I did is I went ahead and pulled all the ones that were down out and pulled them up. So it looks a little bit like a mess. Some of that's damaged just due to the fact of pulling them in. I don't think it's so much freeze damage, even though some do look like it did get some cold temperatures down there. But nonetheless, most of the vine itself is still thriving, as you can see. I technically have 3, or should have 3. One in the middle is the oldest. And what I first did is our local gardening guy, Bill Finch, recommended raking away all the leaves from down around the base of your plants. That way you can absorb as much sunlight and heat in the prior days to the actual freeze itself. So once that was done, next thing I did is I also had several black plastic bags of leaves that I had raked up, and I put those out in the sun, kind of act as a little bit of absorption, heat absorbers, and release it during the night. So I put those around the base. As I said, I put these black plastic bags around the base. Then once around the base outside, I then started covering with layers of old bed sheets, flannel bed sheets, and an old I guess not comforter, but put that up underneath your mattress. And then I also had another bed sheet, covered that on the cover of the surface. So the thickest materials were on this portion right here. The thinner one is where I had the little damage. So then on top of that, I then covered it with a 3.5 mil visqueen, which I'll show you some of the visqueen on there left, but I had it covered so that it covered over on top of the cloth. And you want your cloth to be on top of your plants because you don't want any damage to occur to freeze damage through that plastic. Then on top of that, since the wind was blowing real bad and it was raining, I ended up putting some plywood boards that I had in my garage on top of the structure to hold it down. You can also see I had to utilize a bunch of clamps to just clamp it to the 4x4s and the other structure. Now additionally, I made sure that my plastic and my visqueen had a good overlap, because part of the reason, like the wind blowing, but also you wanted to make sure that it kind of provides a bit of a barrier. And I had to put down, I have an old metal barbecue pit lid I was using, plus some other potted plants to hold it down as well. And then in addition to that, what I found really worked well was this old swimming pool cover, and that's the part that I had over this section. So once again, if you're following, I had the black garbage bags, I had the covers from the beds, then I had a visqueen, then I had the wooden thin plywood up top. You can kind of see it's not very thick, maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. And then on top of that, I just covered it again with the pool cover. Then inside, I also had a space heater and 2 heat lamps, and I just had those showing on the inside. So I also have some internal video from the day of the freeze, or right before it, that I'll add to this as well. So hopefully this will give you an idea of what I did. And the freeze only lasted maybe 10 to 12 hours here. I would recommend that if it's going to be longer than that, if you're going to have 3 days, you're probably better off cutting your plants back and saving them for the future. If I was really kind of mixed emotions on what I wanted to do with this, I'm glad I saved it. But like I said, it was a lot of planning and some past experiences that kind of went into this. So hopefully you find this useful. If you do, please tune in to the Mirliton Man of Mobile Facebook page, or rpcajun2r@gmail.com. If you have any questions, you can send me an email there. Thanks. Alright, so this is going to be the exclusive look at the inside of the Mirliton Man Cave Fortress. I've pulled all the vines in off the trees. I've got black plastic bags with leaves in them on the outside. I've got cloth, old bed sheets on the outside. They got all visqueen draped across the whole thing, holding it down on the sides, and tie wrapped. I got powerful lights and a heater in here. And I've got a swimming pool, which is a little thicker, so hopefully that'll build a little resistance, swimming pool cover on the outside. So I'm hoping that this part especially stays warm. The rest of it is a lot of empty space, which I was hoping it would grow into, but anyway, it makes it easier from a standpoint of hopefully preserving this. So we'll see what happens, and maybe I'll show this tomorrow after, or the next day after I get some good results.